chloride. It contains hydrogen, carbon, and chlorine. That's it. Just those three elements. Vinyl chloride is what was on the trains. It's considered an industrial waste, but not an insanely toxic waste product. You can deal with vinyl chloride. You can, you can put it into tanker cars and you can deal with it. You can incinerate it somewhere else in a proper hazardous waste facility. That's what was on the trains. When they set fire to it, and I learned this from Eric Coppolino, who's going to be joining us, when they set fire to it, and I've confirmed this, I have EPA documents confirming this, they created this molecule in the fire, which is on the right. This is the most toxic molecule ever created by man. It's 2378 TCDD. It's one dioxin of a class of dioxins. And you'll notice that oxygens are inserted into the center of this molecule. It has the carbons, the hydrogens, and now chlorine on both ends. 4 chlorine atoms, and that creates armor. In essence, a chemical armor where this molecule is practically indestructible like Teflon. This molecule is a disruptor of every system in the human body.
So it doesn't break down like radiation?
It will not break down. It doesn't have a half-life like radiation. It is considered a persistent bioaccumulative toxin. That's called a PBT by the EPA. Persistent means it doesn't go away. Bioaccumulative means that it accumulates up the food chain. It falls on the grass. Grass is eaten by the cows, goes into the cow fat cells. It ends up in the milk, the cheese, the meat, the eggs, and so on. And then as a toxin, it interferes with everything. Fertility. It causes cancer. It causes spontaneous abortions, deformities. Just let me repeat. When they set fire to the vinyl chloride, they turned it into a chemical weapons factory that unleashed TCDD. And then they called this a controlled burn, which is a lie. It's not a controlled burn. It was a chemical factory, a chemical bomb on America, an act of ecological terrorism.
And there were, in fact, 5 cars of polyvinyl chloride, 4 cars of PVC pellets, and 5 of vinyl chloride monomer. And they all burned or were burned. And the problem with that is that, among many, many, many problems, is that they were burning in the presence of other fires in cars containing things like wheat and metal and frozen vegetables. And so when other substances burn in the presence of any chlorine fire, this increases the amount of dioxin because you're making the hydrocarbons available as well as the chlorines available. So even a little bit of chlorine in a big any hydrocarbon fire will produce the dioxins. So this is by far, look, this is not really measurable, but I know most of the history of dioxin going back, and I'm going to talk about that history in a moment because I've got a 1956 Monsanto document. But I can't think of a worse dioxin release than this one.
This is, I mean, you and I both are calling for the total evacuation of East Palestine. Yes. Right now, it should happen immediately. And if it does not happen, Eric, what are we looking at in terms of children that are going to be born over the next several years? Because I've read in studies that this will alter pregnancies in a mother 20 years after exposure. What are we looking at in the next 2 years?
Well, even if it's not evacuated, even if it is evacuated, we have a problem because the people have been exposed to so much there, and most of them don't really understand the peril that they're in. They do not really understand the nature of this chemical. But we're looking at multi-generational effects. We're looking at women who cannot have children, and we're looking at spontaneous abortions, pretty much in everyone who's pregnant now, and potentially everyone who becomes pregnant.